In a quaint suburban town nestled among the autumn-kissed trees, the Johnson family was gearing up for their annual Thanksgiving gathering. The crisp air outside hinted at the impending holiday, while inside the aroma of roasting turkey and simmering spices filled the cozy household. Warm hues of amber and gold adorned the walls, casting a welcoming glow upon the family members as they bustled about, preparing for the festive evening ahead. Margaret Johnson, the matriarch of the family, was orchestrating the culinary symphony in the kitchen. Her husband Thomas was meticulously arranging the dining table, making sure every detail was perfect for the impending feast. Meanwhile, their two children, Emily and James, were setting up the living room, adorning it with autumnal decorations and flickering candles to create a comforting ambience. As the day waned and darkness draped over the neighborhood, a sense of anticipation filled the Johnson household. However, unbeknownst to them, a horrific scenario was about to unravel. Far across town, at the local psychiatric institution, a man named Gabriel Smith had been undergoing treatment for severe schizophrenia. Gabriel had been committed after a series of violent episodes and delusions that made him a danger to himself and others. Despite the institution's strict security measures, Gabriel had managed to devise a plan, exploiting a moment of negligence by the staff to escape into the night. Disoriented and consumed by his fractured reality, Gabriel embarked on a harrowing journey through the moonlit streets. His mind was a labyrinth of tormenting whispers, urging him to find his way back to a place he vaguely remembered, a place where he believed his fractured memories could be made whole. As the Johnsons continued their Thanksgiving preparations, a sudden knock echoed through the quiet neighborhood. Thomas, curious about the unexpected visitor, made his way to the front door, assuming it might be an early guest. However, as he swung the door open, he was greeted not by a friendly face, but by a disheveled figure standing in the shadows. It was Gabriel, his eyes wide with a manic intensity, and his demeanor erratic, a stark contrast to the serene ambience of the holiday. "Please, I need to find her," Gabriel muttered, his voice trembling with urgency, his hands shaking uncontrollably. Thomas, taken aback by the stranger's frantic state, attempted to calm him down. "Who are you looking for? Can we help you?" But Gabriel's gaze remained fixed, his words disjointed. "She's here. I know she's here. I have to find her before it's too late." Sensing the man's distress, Thomas hesitated, unsure of how to handle the situation. Before he could respond, Gabriel pushed past him, rushing into the house with an unsettling determination. The sudden intrusion startled Margaret and the rest of the family. Emily let out a startled gasp, while James stood frozen, uncertain of what to do. "Who are you? What do you want?" Margaret demanded, her voice laced with concern and a hint of fear. Gabriel's eyes darted around the room, his breath shallow and rapid. "I need to find her. She's my daughter. They took her away, but I know she's here." The tension in the room escalated as Gabriel's presence became increasingly unsettling. His frenzied search led him through the house, overturning furniture and rummaging through belongings in a desperate quest that made the family uneasy and fearful. Attempting to defuse the situation, Thomas cautiously approached Gabriel. "Sir, please calm down. We don't have anyone here." Before he could finish his sentence, Gabriel's erratic behavior reached its crescendo. With a guttural scream, he lunged at Thomas, his eyes ablaze with madness. The family's shrieks reverberated through the house as chaos erupted. Furniture crashing and the once serene Thanksgiving atmosphere shattered. In a horrifying blur, Gabriel unleashed a frenzied assault, wielding objects at the family in a frenzy fueled by his fractured reality. Margaret's cries echoed in the chaos as James and Emily scrambled to escape the onslaught, their hearts pounding with terror. Amidst the pandemonium, a chilling realization struck the family. Gabriel was not merely a stranger, but a harbinger of unfathomable horror, an embodiment of relentless madness unleashed upon their tranquil Thanksgiving celebration. The harrowing ordeal culminated in a scene of unfathomable horror, a nightmare etched into the Johnson family's memory forever, a stark reminder of how swiftly and mercilessly darkness could descend upon the most joyous of occasions. As the sirens wailed in the distance, echoing the arrival of law enforcement, the once vibrant household stood desolate, a haunting tableau of Thanksgiving turned tragically nightmarish, a tale of a broken mind that shattered the serenity of a family's cherished gathering. leaving behind a trail of unspeakable horror and irreparable devastation. Story 2. In the picturesque town of Maplewood Hills, the serene air was thick with the essence of autumn, painting the landscape in hues of gold and crimson. The Stevens family was bustling with anticipation, eagerly preparing for their annual Thanksgiving celebration. Sarah Stevens, the mother of the household, had spent days meticulously planning the feast, while her husband David tended to the fireplace, filling the home with a cozy warmth that contrasted the crisp November breeze outside. Their children, Michael and Rebecca, were giddy with excitement, hanging decorative turkeys and cornucopias, transforming the house into a festive haven. Laughter and the aroma of roasting turkey wafted through the air, promising a joyous evening of gratitude and togetherness. As dusk descended, an unexpected knock echoed through the Stevens' door, interrupting the harmonious ambience. Sarah, puzzled by the unanticipated visitor, opened the door to reveal a figure standing in the dimming light, an elderly man with weathered features and a somber demeanor. It was George Reynolds, a distant relative Sarah hadn't seen in years. "George, what a surprise! Come in, come in!" Sarah greeted him warmly, though a flicker of uncertainty danced in her eyes. George, clad in worn clothing and bearing a heaviness in his gaze, hesitated before stepping into the welcoming embrace of the Stevens household. His presence evoked an unsettling aura that lingered in the air, an unspoken tension palpable among the family members. "I hope it's not too late to join your celebration, Sarah," George said softly, his voice tinged with a hint of regret. "Of course not, George. We're delighted to have you here," Sarah replied, masking her unease with a gracious smile. As George settled in, his presence cast a shadow over the jovial atmosphere. The family attempted to engage him in conversation, but George remained distant, lost in his thoughts, occasionally offering solemn remarks that disrupted the festive cheer. Throughout the evening, Sarah observed George's demeanor with a growing sense of disquiet. Memories of distant whispers about George's troubled past surfaced in her mind. A past marked by a grim incident that had stained the family's history. Years ago, George had been involved in a harrowing incident, a murder that had sent shockwaves through their family. He had served his time in prison, but the haunting specter of that dark chapter lingered, an uncomfortable reality Sarah had hoped to bury in the depths of forgotten memories. As the evening progressed, unease simmered beneath the veneer of familial warmth. George's presence felt like a looming specter, his hollow stares and subdued demeanor casting a scary pall over the gathering. As the family sat down for their Thanksgiving meal, an unsettling silence settled upon the table. The clinking of utensils against plates was accompanied by fleeting glances exchanged between family members, an unspoken acknowledgement of the disquietude that George's presence had stirred. Midway through the meal, a somber hush enveloped the room, shattered only by George's sudden words, uttered in a tone that pierced through the tranquility. "I remember this place," George mumbled, his voice hollow, eyes fixed on a distant corner of the dining room. Sarah's heart skipped a beat as she exchanged a worried glance with David. Unnerved by George's cryptic statement, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. Suddenly, a dark realization dawned upon Sarah. The unsettling silence that had cloaked George's past, the distant whispers, all converged into a haunting moment of dreadful recognition. Before anyone could react, George's countenance contorted into a visage of anguish and remorse. With a tortured expression, he stood abruptly, knocking over his chair in a startling motion that shattered the fragile semblance of normalcy. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry," George whispered, his voice laden with guilt as he clutched his chest, his body trembling violently. The room fell into a stunned silence, the air thick with disbelief and horror. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she watched in frozen terror, realizing the grim truth that was unraveling before her eyes. In a haunting culmination, George collapsed to the ground, convulsing in agony, his anguished cries echoing through the once celebratory household. Shocked and paralyzed by the unfolding horror, the family could only stare in sheer terror as George's body convulsed and writhed, a haunting finale to their Thanksgiving gathering. Amidst the chaos and distress, the truth unfolded. The harrowing burden of George's past had consumed him, unleashing an unfathomable nightmare upon the Stevens family. forever staining their cherished Thanksgiving with the unbearable weight of a dark and ghastly revelation. Story 3. In the cozy town of Willowbrook, anticipation filled the air as families prepared for the cherished Thanksgiving celebration. The Reed family, adorned in warm sweaters and smiles, gathered around the dining table, their home illuminated by the soft glow of flickering candles. Mark Reed, the patriarch, had spent the morning roasting the perfect turkey, while his wife Emily skillfully crafted an array of delectable side dishes, filling the house with enticing aromas. Their children, Ethan and Olivia, buzzed with excitement, eagerly setting the table with vibrant autumn-themed decorations. The mood was festive, and laughter echoed within the walls as the family anticipated the arrival of their relatives for the Thanksgiving feast. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a knock on the door shattered the serene atmosphere. Mark, puzzled by the unexpected interruption, answered the door to find two stern-faced police officers standing on his porch. A chill ran down his back at the sight of their grim expressions. "Mr. Reed, we need to speak with you," one of the officers stated, his voice laced with solemnity. Bewildered and apprehensive, Mark invited them in, his mind racing with confusion and concern. Emily and the children watched in worried silence as the officers explained the purpose of their visit, an allegation connecting Mark to a recent homicide in the vicinity. Mark's heart sank, and a wave of disbelief washed over him as he vehemently denied any involvement. The officers, however, insisted that they had evidence linking him to the crime scene. They informed Mark that they needed to take him into custody for further questioning. Stunned and desperate to clear his name, Mark attempted to reassure his family. "I promise, it's a mistake. I'll sort this out and be back soon," he assured them, his voice wavering with uncertainty. As the officers escorted Mark away, Emily and the children stood in shock, grappling with the sudden upheaval that had shattered their Thanksgiving bliss. Fear and confusion clouded their thoughts as they watched Mark being led away, their hearts heavy with disbelief. Hours passed, and the once vibrant household now felt eerily desolate without its patriarch. Emily struggled to maintain a facade of normalcy for the sake of Ethan and Olivia, but the weight of uncertainty hung heavily in the air, casting a pall over the Thanksgiving celebration. As the evening wore on, anxiety gnawed at Emily's core, and the children's fretful glances mirrored her distress. With every passing moment, the absence of Mark loomed larger, an ominous void that tainted the warmth of their familial gathering. Then a sudden ring of the doorbell pierced the silence, jolting Emily and the children from their worried thoughts. Ethan rushed to answer the door, hoping for Mark's return, but his hopes were shattered as he faced a disheveled man standing in the doorway. It was Mark, but his countenance was a haunting contrast to his usual demeanor. His eyes held a hollow emptiness, his clothing disheveled, and an air of desolation clung to him like a shroud. "Mark, what happened? Are you okay?" Emily's voice trembled with a mixture of relief and apprehension. Mark's response was a hollow whisper devoid of its usual warmth. "I didn't do it. I didn't..." He trailed off, his words trailing into a haunting silence. Before anyone could comprehend the gravity of the situation, Mark staggered forward, his gaze fixed on an unseen horror that seemed to consume him from within. With a sudden, shocking realization, Emily and the children recoiled in terror as Mark's hands trembled violently, clutching something, a blood-stained knife. In a horrifying twist of fate, the truth slowly unraveled, a truth too devastating to comprehend. Mark's fragmented recollections and the damning evidence against him collided in a dark revelation, a revelation that shook the foundation of the Reed family's world. Unable to bear the weight of his torment, Mark's shattered psyche succumbed to a terrifying reality. With a gut-wrenching scream, he raised the knife, plunging it into his own chest, the metallic tang of blood mingling with the acrid scent of tragedy. Shock and horror paralyzed Emily and the children, their cries drowned by the sudden nightmarish crescendo that shattered the once hopeful Thanksgiving celebration. The gut-wrenching sight of their beloved father and husband succumbing to the depths of despair stained their cherished memories, forever etching a harrowing finale to their once joyous holiday gathering. Story 4. The air hung heavy with the fragrant promise of Thanksgiving, a day for warmth, laughter, and family. The Carter household bustled with activity. The aroma of roasting turkey permeated every corner, blending harmoniously with the sweet scent of pumpkin pie. In the heart of the kitchen, Mrs. Carter orchestrated the culinary symphony, meticulously stirring gravies and basting the golden turkey with utmost care. Mr. Carter, with a jovial smile, prepared the dining room, adorning it with autumnal decorations, while their children, Sarah and Michael, playfully set the table, their laughter echoing through the house. As dusk began to descend, guests trickled in, relatives bearing pies, casseroles, and heartfelt smiles. Warm embraces and cheerful greetings filled the air, enveloping the house in a cocoon of familial bliss. Stories of yesteryears intermingled with peals of laughter, forging memories to be cherished for years to come. As the night wore on, the Carter residence glowed with contentment, the crackling fire in the hearth casting a gentle warmth over the gathering. Amidst the lively chatter, a disconcerting sense of unease began to pervade the atmosphere. A faint smell of smoke wafted into the room, initially dismissed as a mere errant ember from the fireplace. Unbeknownst to the jubilant occupants, a sinister presence lurked just beyond their sanctuary. A dark figure, cloaked in shadows, skulked in the periphery, clandestinely surveying the house, a simmering resentment fueling their every move. Unnoticed amidst the revelry, the figure's malevolent intent festered, stoking the flames of a nefarious scheme. Outside, under the cloak of night, the figure moved with ominous purpose, dousing the walls with a volatile accelerant. The air grew thick with the acrid scent of gasoline as the fiend meticulously drenched the foundation of the Carter home, marking it for destruction. Each sloshing step echoed their vengeful resolve, their heart pulsating with a sinister rhythm. With the stealth of a specter, the figure retreated into the shadows, a flickering match igniting their sinister design. The flame danced to life, a malevolent entity born from the betrayal seeping through the cracks of the night. It crept along the walls, greedily devouring the home, a monstrous fiend unleashed by the twisted desires of one consumed by hatred. Inside, the jovial symphony of laughter abruptly ceased as a faint crackling sound breached the festivities. Initially dismissed as part of the fireplace's ambience, dread slithered into the hearts of the celebrants as wisps of smoke curled around the doorframes. Panic seized the gathering. The festive cheer devolved into frantic chaos. Sarah's piercing scream pierced the clamor, her eyes wide with terror as she beheld the tendrils of fire licking at the walls. Reality twisted into a nightmarish tableau, the once joyous home now a blazing inferno devouring everything in its insatiable hunger. Mr. and Mrs. Carter ushered their guests towards the exits, their faces etched with terror and determination. Smoke billowed, choking the once pristine air while flames roared, devouring memories and dreams in equal measure. Amidst the pandemonium, the figure watched from the shadows, their twisted grin a grotesque mask of satisfaction. Heart-wrenching sobs echoed through the night as the Carter family, surrounded by the anguished cries of their loved ones, stumbled into the cold embrace of the night, their sanctuary reduced to a fiery abyss. The flames painted an infernal portrait against the dark canvas of the night sky, their home, a mere skeleton consumed by the insatiable appetite of destruction. With a final roar, the structure collapsed in a cacophony of splintering wood and billowing flames, a haunting crescendo to the symphony of terror. The figure, shrouded in darkness, vanished into the night, leaving behind the smoldering ruins and shattered lives, a twisted legacy etched in the embers of treachery. The echoes of that fateful Thanksgiving night lingered, a haunting reminder of the fragility of joy, the devastation wrought by betrayal, and the horrifying depths of human malevolence. The Carter family's once joyous celebration lay ensnared in the clutches of an unforgiving fate, their lives forever scarred by the flames of betrayal that ravaged their home and shattered their world in a terrifying denouement of horror.